Good evening, everybody. Brian Rundle, Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest. It is Thursday, August 8th. Tonight is just me. Lana is, she normally does her own show on Thursday nights, but she got caught up with some work and stuff like that tonight. So she won't be doing her show tonight, but she may be doing it over the weekend. So, as I've said before, trying to get a little bit more content out there. So I'll probably be doing some shows by myself. My cat's behind me there. So he might be joining as well. But, I wanted to come on today, donning my New York Mets stuff today. I'm a big Mets fan. It's baseball season. They are in the playoff race, so that has me excited. But, of course, if anybody knows anything about baseball, or if you know anything about the New York Mets, you know at some point they are going to let you down and break your heart and crush your soul and make you lose all your hair. So everything that I just listed, you could check off for me because that has 100% happened because of the New York Mets. But anyway, today, Donald Trump held a press conference today that was so brain melting that I don't understand when people listen to this guy. Not only are they excited to vote for him, but they listen and take in every word and really think that this guy is some sort of leader. It is mind numbing to me how people even consider him just a candidate for anything. But it is just, listening to him is like listening to a 5-year-old give a book report in front of the class. That's what I hear, and that's what I see every time I see this guy speak. Now, part of this so-called press conference today, I'm sure, was based on the narrative that I'm hearing a lot about Kamala Harris, is that she has not given an interview yet, that she runs away from press conferences, that she's scared, and Donald Trump's going to prove that he's not scared of the press, and he's going to give his batshit crazy press conference. And in his head, what he's doing is amazing. It's incredible. And Kamala Harris could never do anything like what he's doing. I'm sure the sycophants and the right-wing propaganda media is going to prop this up as some sort of win for him. But if you're a normal, regular human being that has half a brain or more, you would watch this and know that this was just absolutely batshit crazy. I mean, it just made absolutely no sense. And on top of that, I mean, I've got tons of clips. So I don't have Lana with me tonight. So I do have a lot of clips that are going to accompany me, and it's going to be easier to play off of those. And most of those clips are going to be from the press conference today. So he gets up there and he's talking to the press, and the strategy is just to let everybody know that he's some strong man, some tough guy. He goes on about, whatever it is that he's saying. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by my animals behind me. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into some of these clips. The first one was, there was a reporter that asked him why he is not campaigning. What's going on here? And Kamala Harris has campaign events going on. She had 2 yesterday. She had 1 the day before. She's got a full week coming, and then she's going to schedule a lot more. Donald Trump has 1 in Montana. Now, a lot of people would question, I don't understand. Montana is the state that's pretty much wrapped up. And from what I have learned, that this had been scheduled a while ago. And one of the reasons why there may not be a lot more scheduled from this point is because when that was originally scheduled, it was when he was running against Joe Biden. He was convinced that he was winning anyway. So the move to go to Montana is more for the Senate race there with John Tester and his opponent. So and there really hasn't been many scheduled after that. But he was asked this question. He did not like this question. Again, it's one of these things where somebody asks him a question and he gets offended and calls it stupid. And here's his response.
President, you have not had a public campaign event for nearly a week now. Tomorrow you'll be in Montana, which is not a swing state. Some of your allies have expressed concern that you're not taking this race seriously, particularly at a time where there is enthusiasm on the other side. Why haven't you been campaigning this week?
Call it right there. First of all, calling him out for not campaigning, for people saying that they're concerned, and for saying there's enthusiasm on the other side, not his. He is steaming right now. This is throwing him off his game, and his answers here are going to be clear.
Because I'm leading by a lot, and because I'm letting
That's not true.
Their convention go through, and I am campaigning a lot. I'm doing tremendous amounts of taping here. We have commercials that are at a level I don't think that anybody's ever done before.
By the way, real quick, a couple things here. All this stuff is from the confines of his home. He's doing this press conference from Mar-A-Lago. He's doing whatever these tapings are. I don't even know what he's talking about. The commercials that he's running too, this is him saying that he's campaigning. Also, you're going to hear this theme that he always does, is that you've never seen anything like it before. Everything is just so grandiose with this guy. And it's going to be in quite a few of these clips that I play. But this is him saying that, they're doing commercials in a manner of which nobody has ever seen. And again, just to listen to this and to think that what he's saying has any ring of truth, to me, just boggles my mind that grown adults buy into this.
Plus, in certain cases, I see many of you in the room where I'm speaking to you on phones, I'm speaking to radio, I'm speaking to television.
All from home.
Television's coming over here. Excuse me, what are we doing right now? She's not doing any news conference. You know why she's not doing it? Because she can't do a news conference. She doesn't know how to do a news conference. She's not smart enough to do a news conference. And I'm sorry, we need smart people to lead this country, because our country's never been in this danger before, both economically and from an outside perspective. Russia doesn't respect us anymore. China doesn't respect us anymore. North Korea, Kim Jong-un, liked me a lot. He doesn't like this group. We are in great danger. We're in great danger of being in World War III. That could happen. Travel? No, after their convention, yeah. And I'm going out, actually, I'm going out to certain places to help certain senators get elected. Not even for me. I'm trying to help when I go out to Wyoming or when I go out to Montana, or I'm going to different places to help people. And I don't have to go there because I'm leading those states, as you know, by 35, 40, 50 points. I'm leading by record numbers. I'm going because I want to help senators and congressmen get elected. Congressmen and women get elected. Yes, please.
Okay, another non-answer there. And by the way, he's not leading any state by 50 points. I mean, again, everything's so grandiose, and he's going to make everything sound like he's just on top of the world, like he's winning. And this has been his whole life. His whole life has been taught this. He had an attorney, and his name, I can't remember his attorney, but he was one of these guys who used to be an attorney for the mob. And he taught Donald Trump just to run over basically everybody and just to say everything, whether it's true, whether it's not true, and just continue that path. And you know what? Somehow it has worked. It has worked with people who have, at minimum, a high school education, that you could sit there and continue to say the same things over and over and over again, and people are going to believe it. And half of that is because they want to believe it. The other half is because they just don't go out and do the research. They don't really care about the truth on this. They just take it in because they want to believe whatever it is that they're saying. But, he said a lot of nonsense there, that he's, I've got a lot of things lined up, and he doesn't, and if he did, he would be able to tell you exactly what he had lined up. If Kamala Harris was asked that question, she would specifically be able to tell you where you're going and where she's going. And again, I know some people would be out there and say, well, you wouldn't be able to because she wouldn't do press conferences. Trust me when I tell you, before this election, she's going to be doing interviews. She's going to be doing press conferences. She's going to be all over the place. Kamala Harris is a professional prosecutor. If anybody in their right mind thinks that she is in any way afraid of the press if she's afraid of Donald Trump, JD Vance, the sycophants over on the right-wing media. I promise you, she is not. Do yourself a favor if you have not done this recently, or if you haven't done it at all. Go back and just Google any time Kamala Harris is in any of these Senate hearings and see how she grills these dudes who are on the verge of tears by her questions. I mean, literally, Jeff Sessions, when he was grilling Jeff Sessions, he literally came out and said, "You're making me nervous." She is not afraid of any of you people. Trust me when I tell you this. But you know what? It's okay. Keep doing that. Keep thinking that she's afraid. Keep thinking that she's not good enough for this race. But it is clear if you look at all of the polls, and if you've watched this show before, Lana and I have talked a million times. We don't put all of our eggs in the basket of polls. However, we have said on numerous occasions that if the polls are making a big shift one way or another, that is something to consider. And the polls literally about 3 weeks ago had Donald Trump up over 3 points over Joe Biden, which again, I still don't understand. And if you watched our last show, I will say this to the grave. I still think Joe Biden would have pulled it out had he stayed in the race, because I just believe everybody would have pulled it together. I think everybody would have convinced the American people that regardless of Joe Biden's mental state, whatever it was, is that he was still the better choice. Now, it wouldn't have been a blowout. It would have been close. And had Donald Trump won, I would not have been shocked, but I still say Joe Biden would have won. But anyway, the shift in the polls that we're seeing now are huge. I mean, huge. Literally, I am seeing Kamala Harris on many polls. If you go to Real Clear Politics, it gives you a daily update of where polls are. And I was scrolling through a page there, and the last few days, it shows red for Donald Trump, blue for Kamala Harris. Literally everything was blue. Everything. So, she is exciting. She is not only exciting just her base, but she's exciting people who were on the fence. She's exciting people who thought, I can't vote for Joe Biden. He's just too old. I can't do this. I might sit out. So she's exciting those people. She's exciting people from the Black community. She's exciting people from the Latino community. She's exciting independents. She's exciting young people. She's exciting white old guys like me. She's exciting women. She is exciting everybody. And the contrast, Donald Trump is exciting really nobody other than his base. Even his base, some of them have to be going, all right, man. I mean, I've heard the Hannibal Lecter thing. I've heard the sharks and boats thing. I mean, what the fuck are we doing? I mean, what can we move on to something that's a little bit more relevant so I can feel better about voting for you? I mean, I'm sure there are even people in the know, the smarter MAGA people, which I know that's really it's hard to understand that exists. But when I say smarter MAGA people, I know these are just awful people who want Donald Trump to win, not because they think he's smart or good, just because they're bad people. And the people who will be taking over for Donald Trump, like the Kevin Roberts of Project 2025, they're the ones, they want Trump to win, so they take over. And I think they're saying, some of them even out loud, is like, man, you might need to change your message a little bit, but we'll see. Okay. So the next clip that we have here is Donald Trump is asked about Tim Walz, the new vice presidential candidate. And this is what he had to say about Tim.
Radical left person at a level that nobody's seen.
There it is again. Radical left. He's going to use all the talking points. He's going to use all the greatest hits. Radical left and something like you've never seen.
Picked a radical left man that is, he's got things done that he has positions that are just not, it's not even possible to believe that they exist. He's going for things that nobody's ever even heard of. Heavy into the transgender world, heavy into lots of different worlds.
Yeah, I mean, again, I said this earlier. I mean, just picture a 5-year-old up there talking and saying the same exact things. It's really no different, you know, right? I mean, I'm listening to this guy and he's like a man and he's just trying to think of something to say. And then I'm going to sit here and listen to these MAGA idiots. And trust me, I got friends that are MAGA idiots. I'm in these group texts with these MAGA idiots. And I almost like doing it because it's like sparring, you know, in a way, boxing. It's just like I can say whatever I want to these idiots and just knock them out with it is easy. I mean, it's an easy fight because they're all just so lost on, you know, what they're saying. But, you know, they'll believe it. They're going to believe everything that he's saying. Hey, Paul McGuire has a comment. Thank you for joining us, Paul. I can see that you are not probably a fan of what I'm saying because Paul says that he loves Trump. He's the only one that talks the truth. See, this is what we deal with. These are the people who actually think what he's saying is, first of all, true, like the election was stolen. The election wasn't stolen. That's been proven out. I mean, I don't know how many times. In fact, a lot of the MAGA people that I've talked to ask me, did you see 2,000 Mules? Did you even bother watching that? That'll give you an insight of how everything was stolen. Well, I don't know if the MAGA people know this or not, but if you go back and you see what recently happened with the producers or the makers of 2,000 Mules, they had to pull the movie down and they had to make an apology because of everything that was incorrect and false about that movie. But they're not going to go out of their way and find that out. And even if they read it, you know what they're just going to say? They're going to go, oh, what? NBC reported that? CNN, fake news. And they'll just continue to believe it because they just need that in their life. And that's okay. Because at this point, Paul and everybody else that says Trump is the truth teller and that MAGA is the way to go, and you know, interest rates and gas prices are going to be 2% and it's $1 a gallon if Donald Trump takes over. We're all bored with this anymore. It doesn't matter. This is just stupid anymore, and you can feel it. You can feel the people in this country now saying, "Yeah, man. I mean, you gave it a shot, and you know, you had one chance." To really prove yourself as a leader in this country during COVID, and you failed so fucking badly that you lost by 7 million votes to Joe Biden. And I hate to say it, Donald Trump possibly would have won that election had COVID not hit, because I think, first of all, it's tough to beat an incumbent already. You see, most incumbents don't lose their presidential race. It's only happened a handful of times. So it's tough enough to do that. But he botched COVID so badly that he got blown out in the popular vote by 7 million votes. And at this point, and this is for all the MAGAs out there watching, and you know, maybe you can at least take in what I'm trying to tell you. And you may not, and that's fine. But Donald Trump is doing nothing, literally nothing, to gain new voters. He has his base, and that's it. You're not going to win the election based on a base that has already lost in 2020. If you're not adding voters to the total of what you lost last time, 7 million, you're probably going to lose worse. And now that the Democratic Party is excited and they are re-energized, it's going to be near impossible to beat Kamala Harris unless you find a way to add new voters. And Donald Trump, just based on this press conference alone, does not have the capacity to add new voters because he, thinks he's good enough. He thinks he's smart enough, and doggone it, people like him. Do you get that reference? If you get that reference, let me know. But he does think he's so far ahead, and he thinks he's so beloved. In fact, one of the clips I'm going to play, which is going to prove that out a little bit. But I also want to get to this other thing that he's doing that, you know, again, it works with the MAGA base. Lana and I had this conversation a little bit, and I brought this up before. she does not think that when we talk about the post-abortions and that the baby is killed after the post-abortion, this rhetoric and this crazy, ridiculous narrative they keep bringing up, she thinks that the MAGA voters don't even believe that. And I said, I think that really, truly, some of them do. But of course, here, and this is the reason why, because this guy, like Paul McGuire, who in my comments just said that he's the only one that speaks the truth. This is what he says about abortions. And if Paul, if you're still joining me, listen to this comment and tell me if you believe that this is true.
Florida's abortion referendum in November.
On what?
How are
On
you
what?
planning to vote on Florida's abortion referendum this November?
By the way, he had a lot of time hearing today. He had a lot of hearing problems. He had a lot of hearing problems, too, when he was interviewed by the National Association of Black Journalists. But he did a lot of, but like the old senile guy that he's become.
Well, I'm going to announce that. I'm going to actually have a press conference on that at some point in the near future, so I don't want to tell you now. But Florida does have a vote coming up on that, and I think probably
wrong one. Okay,
a little more liberal.
Hold on, we'll go back to that one. I want to go back to the one where he was asked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think this is it.
Radical. The Democrats are really the radical ones on this because they're allowed to do abortion on the 8th and 9th month and even after birth. If you look at your new governor from Minnesota, he's talking about, he's like the governor previous, the former governor. I don't want to get him mixed up because
I'm really not even sure what he's saying.
Glenn
here.
is doing a good job, and he's leading our whole campaign in Virginia, Glenn Youngkin. But previous to Glenn, the governor, he said the baby will be born. We will put the baby aside, and we will decide with the mother what we're going to do. In other words, whether or not we're going to kill the baby. The Minnesota gentleman, this guy agrees with that. He is the
Okay, he obviously doesn't even know what he's saying himself, but he's claiming again that Tim Walz has said that we can have these babies, right? And after they're born, if we need to just off them, we're going to off them. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be because I'm a radical left Democrat. Nobody's ever seen anything like me before. So, if we need to kill this kid, then we're just going to kill him because that's what we do. That's what we do as Democrats. Paul, if you're still with me, is that something that you believe? Do you believe that Democrats are asking for post-birth it's just so stupid to even say out loud that I have a hard time getting through it. Do you believe that Democrats believe that there are post-birth abortions? Baby Juggernaut is with us. Good evening, Baby Juggernaut. And yes, you are correct. He actually is insane. He's nuts. But let's go back to the clip that I was playing here. Sorry, my clips are a little bit off here, but I want to make sure that we are. Sorry here, guys. I don't have a producer or somebody that is helping me out here, so I'm going to have to kind of mess around with this and make sure that it's correct. But he was asked because now he does live in the state of Florida. So that's where he's going to be voting. He's going to be voting in the state of Florida. And on the ballot for the state of Florida is an initiative for abortion rights. There's also an initiative for marijuana. And if you watched our last show, I did mention that because of these two initiatives that Florida, a lot of people believe Florida has a chance. Florida has a chance to pull it out. Now, if you're looking at betting odds here, because I'm a gambling guy, I like to gamble. I like to gamble on sports, and I understand the odds on things. And I won't make it too complicated, but let's just put it this way. The favorite to win Florida is going to be Donald Trump. And I think before first of all, the ballot initiatives, before they came onto the ballot and before Kamala Harris and Tim Walz came on the ballot, I think Donald Trump would be considered what's called a heavy favorite, which means it's almost impossible that he was going to lose Florida. But now that we have the ballot initiatives and now that we have Kamala Harris and Tim Walz on the ticket, that huge discrepancy in his favoritism of winning has shrunk significantly. So they still have 3 months to make up ground. I think they're still going to be behind in Florida. But, you know, they're going to have a chance. And I think a part of that chance is going to be, and, you know, one of the reasons, and just before I continue, one of the big reasons why Florida is going to be hard to win. Florida has made a big shift since Obama won and by the way, I live in the state of Florida, if you did not know. But Florida made a big shift where there were more registered Democrats than there were Republicans. Now there are significantly more registered Republicans than there are Democrats, but there are a ton of independent voters here in the state as well. So that's where people feel like Florida has a chance, because we're going after those independent voters. We're going after those voters who once were voting for Donald Trump and now they're going, yeah, man, I'm over this shit. I can't do this with this guy anymore. We've got to get rid of this. Even if I have to grit my teeth and vote for somebody I don't love, I'm still going to vote for her, because we've got to end this madness. We just absolutely have to end it. In fact, I was telling somebody today, you know, we're talking about the dynamics of this race, and I literally have never, in my years of following politics, I've been following politics for over 25 years, never once in an election race have seen groups of people form from their own party that's against their own candidate. In other words, the Never Trumpers, the Republicans for Harris. There's all these kinds of groups. Almost half of Trump's administration, including his vice president, said, I will not vote for this guy. There's no way I'm voting for Donald Trump. Some of them have even said, I will vote for Kamala Harris, because that's the American thing to do. Lana and I talked about this on our last show. The bottom line is this. By the way, Lana and I had said, we both want a functional Republican Party because we feel like that is important to this country. But these Republicans, real conservatives, understand that if Donald Trump wins, that their conservative party is dead. It is dead. So in order to get their party back and to have any chance of reviving what the Republican Party was and what the conservative movement was, they have to defeat this MAGA movement that is so fucking crazy, that they understand how crazy it is. So when you have your own party people voting against Donald Trump, I don't see that happening on the Democratic side. If anybody out there sees it and can specifically show me some sort of group that has been formed, like Democrats against Harris or Democrats against Biden, or and I'm talking about a significant movement. I'm not talking about a couple of clowns that you see on social media. I'm talking about a real one, or Never Harris or anything like that. Let me know. I'd be interested to see it. But anyway, Donald Trump was asked whether or not, or how he was going to vote in the upcoming election on abortion, and this is what he had to say.
How are you planning to vote on Florida's abortion referendum this November?
Well, I'm going to announce that. I'm going to actually have a press conference on that at some point in the
2
near
weeks.
future, so I don't want to tell you now. But Florida does have a vote coming up on that, and I think probably the vote will go in a little more liberal way than people thought. But I'll be announcing that at the appropriate time. Please.
How did anybody think this guy is smart? He was asked a very simple question, and his answer was, I'm going to announce that soon, and that there is an initiative on the ballot, and I think that it could go one way or the other. I don't understand how anybody looks at this guy as a serious candidate. I don't see how anybody looks at this guy that has an ounce of intelligence. I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay. So, um, anyway, he was asked about January 6th, and he was asking about the people of January 6th, and he did the same sort of thing he does, that they were patriots and these people were wrongly accused and they're in jail for the wrong reasons, and the same bullshit. Let's hear what he had to say about that.
I think the people that, if you look at January 6th, which a lot of people aren't talking about very much, I think those people were treated very harshly. When you compare them to other things that took place in this country where a lot of people were killed, nobody was killed on January 6th. But I think that the people of January 6th were treated very unfairly. And they were there to complain, not through me, they were there to complain about an election.
Every answer just feels like a Mad Lib. Does everybody know what a Mad Lib is? I mean, if you were my age, or maybe, I'm sure, I don't know, Mad Lib's still around. Let me know in the comments if you're younger, if you know what Mad Libs are. But everything is just like a fill in the blank. Everything, it's just treated so horribly. Everything is just so grandiose and just over the top on his answers. And, here's the thing. The January 6 people belong in jail. They absolutely belong. And in fact, I don't think a lot of them even got the sentences that they deserve. They probably should be in jail for longer. But I also wanted to bring this up as well. Let's share a screen here and go to this, that Judge Chutkan actually has the January 6 case back to her. So Donald Trump's federal election interference case is slowly coming back to life. The case is now back in the hands of District Judge Tanya Chutkan after it was frozen for months while the former president was fighting for immunity up to the Supreme Court. The 4 criminal cases against the former president, spanning 88 charges in 4 jurisdictions, have been hung up in months of appeals and delays, creating a Russian nesting doll of courtroom battles with court dates and side hearings on evidence, gag orders, and defense arguments, all designed to slow down the likelihood of another conviction before Election Day. I was listening to some people earlier, and they were saying that they believe that we may see some movement on this particular case, which is good. I mean, because the American people really need to know what happened on that day. Now, we had hearings already through Senate hearings and stuff like that, and or it was there was a committee put together to investigate this, and it was televised, and it was really good, and it was very thorough. But to have Donald Trump on trial for this, I personally believe is very important. He should be on trial for this. It was, again, one of the biggest travesties and crimes committed against this country by a fucking president of the United States. So I really hope that we get some sort of play here. But here's the other thing. There was a time, I mean, heck, this was about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, that I was really irritated, maybe even earlier than that, irritated that none of these trials were going to happen. None of them. But now there's a part of me, because the energy that the Democratic Party has, and it feels like a train that is moving that can't be stopped at this point. It's almost now as if I'd almost prefer, let's just get through this election, kick the shit out of this guy, and then watch him have the worst 2025 a human being could possibly have. He is going to be indicted left and right. There's going to be absolutely nothing he can do to stop it, other than hopping on a plane and going to visit one of the buddies that he loves so much, like Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un, which, again, actually could be scary, because he had classified documents. He probably made copies of a lot of this shit. He's probably got some things in case he leaves the country, and he hates this country so much now because he was either going to go to jail or he lost 2 elections back to back, that he would share a lot of these classified documents if he hasn't already. And I 100% do not put that out of the realm of possibility. I am far from a conspiracy theorist, but I've seen this guy long enough in my lifetime. Forget about just being president. We've all known who Donald Trump was years ago. And I read about Donald Trump before he became president. I read who this guy was for years and years and years. And it is played out over and over and over again. And he is a lifelong con man, grifting asshole who only cares about himself. People like Paul McGuire and these other MAGA people who actually think he gives a fuck about you. I swear, I promise you, I wish there's some way I can get this through your head. He doesn't. And you can probably look at me and go, Kamala Harris doesn't give a shit about you. Here's the difference. First of all, I do believe Kamala Harris and Tim Walz cares about this country. I truly believe they care about the best thing for this country. But also, I'm not going to war for either one of these. I am not going to defend every horrible thing they do in their life if they ever did anything horrible. I'm not defending it like you guys will to the death. This guy's a fucking felon. This guy was found liable for rape. And you guys are going to look at us like we're losing our minds, like we're fucking crazy? Fuck out of here. Not happening. Anyway, I was talking earlier about Donald Trump and where he thinks he is so far ahead. And part of the reason why he's so far ahead is because he thinks that this country is so behind him. He had a pretty astronomical percentage of people he thinks that are Trump voters.
The country, and in terms of unifying the country, bringing it back, to have taken her and to have put her in jail. And I think you know the things as well as I do. There were some pretty bad acts that she
The her is, by the way, Hillary Clinton.
did. I think it would have been very bad for our country. And a lot of my people, a lot of the MAGA, as they call them, but the base. And I think the base is 75% of the country, far beyond the Republican Party.
75% of the country, he believes, is voting for him, yet he lost Joe Biden by 7 million votes. So, I mean, again, make sense of it for me. I don't know how he picked up more voters over the years. I don't know, how that happened, but he truly believes that 75% of this country is on his side. And I hope he continues to think that, because if he continues to think that, his strategy is going to stay the same. He's not going to change anything of his strategy, although I truly believe if he even did change the strategy right now, it's too far gone at this point. You can't change over 9 years of batshit crazy nuttiness and in 3 months completely change your entire personality. You just can't do it. People know who this guy is now. You feel it. You truly feel in this country now that people are exhausted. They are done with this ridiculousness. Yeah, there's loudmouth idiots who are still going to go to battle for Donald Trump, and they're just going to say everything to defend him. They're going to say everything to try to put down Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And by the way, I don't know what it is with these MAGA people, because I thought they were supposed to be the big, we love the military people, but they hate Pete Buttigieg, who is a military guy. Now they don't like Tim Walz. They didn't know who the guy was 3 months ago, but now they hate him. John Kerry is another military guy they hate. So I guess maybe it's just the Democratic people who are in the military that they don't like. I don't know, but you would think that they would give a little bit more respect to the military men and women, regardless of what their party was, and go there. By the way, I bring up Tim Walz and him being a military guy. This guy literally is a Disney movie. He really is. He was a military guy for 24 years. He served his country for 24 years. He left the military to become a high school teacher. He was a social studies high school teacher, and he was the football coach. He literally, and again, this is just amazing. He's the football coach in the 90s, and there are gay kids in the high school there. And he was one of the leaders who put together a group to defend the gay kids and got his football players involved and let everybody know and to show First of all, this is what real men do. Real men will defend the marginalized community. Real men will step up and be secure in their own masculinity and at the same time say, this is bullshit. Don't pick on somebody just because they're not like you. So that's another thing that he did. His students loved him so much and thought he was so great. They were the ones who talked him into running for Congress. He ran for office. He wins. He subsequently wins the governorship of Minnesota. 3 months ago, nobody, unless you really, really, really knew politics, nobody really knew who this guy was. Nobody. Then all of a sudden he gets on TV. He is saying things that are starting to get attention. He says one word that all of a sudden now everybody's paying attention. He called them weird. It was a perfect targeted word that I'm not even sure he knew how much this was going. In fact, I know there's no way he knew how much that was going to take off and how much of a bullseye that was by just calling these people weird. And it works because now you diminish what is scary about them, because every time they talk and everything they say seems scary, and I'm coming after you, and I'm this, and we're doing Project 2025, and don't get me wrong, they are still scary people if they win, but calling them weird makes it harder for them to win. Why? Because people are now looking at it and going, God damn, they fucking are weird. They are just weird people. And that took off. And then people started to notice him more and more and more. And then first of all, he wasn't even in the initial VP sweepstakes, as they call it. And all of a sudden his name started showing up in there. People like, he doesn't have a chance. Weeks go on. Long story short, well, I guess too late for the long story, but he is now the vice presidential candidate of the United States of America. He's a fucking Disney movie, and people love him. It's nearly impossible not to love. There's nothing about this guy that you look at and say, I don't like him. By the way, he's also a gun owner. He's a hunter. He does all the things that you would think is a MAGA guy or a Republican even. But, it's truly an amazing story. But let's get back to to this batshit crazy press conference. This is Donald Trump again, where he is talking about how people come into this country and where they're coming from. And one of the most popular things that he says is that they're coming from prisons and from insane asylums. Let's take a listen.
The Democrats are really the
radical again.
Radical ones on this, because they're allowed to do abortion on the 8th and 9th month, and even
sorry, we played that one already. Sorry, my clips got messed up today.
Millions of people were allowed to come into our country from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions, insane asylums, even insane asylums. It's a mental institution on steroids. That's what it is. When you see the people that are coming into these are institutions that are being emptied out, not in South America, all over the world, including South America, all over the world.
First of all, there's absolutely no truth to that whatsoever. They're not being emptied out from all over the world. Millions of people are not crossing the border, and especially from insane asylums and prisons and stuff like that. That is absolutely just not happening. One of the funniest things that I've seen online that, in just reading it, it's funny. But when you read it and after you're done laughing, you go, holy shit, it could be a lot of truth to this. So there was this thing going around on Twitter or on social media and online. Somebody finally put 2 and 2 together and said, I'm starting to realize why Donald Trump keeps bringing up Hannibal Lecter when he is talking about the immigrants coming into the country, because the immigrants are seeking asylum and Hannibal Lecter was in an insane asylum, and that he doesn't know the difference between the two. And tell me you don't believe that there's a possibility that that is true. I absolutely believe that's where that comes from because he's so dumb. He's just so stupid. And again, just listening to him speak, he says nothing of substance ever. Everything is just an adjective or everything is a fill in. Everything is, none of it makes sense. And the other thing, I've said this before, anybody out there that's watching, that if you are a Donald Trump supporter, please explain to me the policies that he says in either his rallies, his press conferences, his his speeches, whatever it is. Tell me what policies that you list that you love from him. And I'm not talking about him just saying bullshit like, I'm going to stop the millions of people, which isn't true, coming into the border. In fact, border crossings are down. They're down significantly, and they're down less than when Donald Trump was in office. Don't tell me stupid shit like he's going to bring gas prices and interest rates down. He has nothing to do with gas prices and interest rates. I work in the mortgage industry. If you want to go there with me on the interest rates, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. But, you can watch plenty of our shows in the past where I explain to you why Donald Trump or Joe Biden, Ronald Reagan, the Bushes, the Clintons, Obamas have nothing to do with the fucking interest rates. Now, some of the policies may shape where the interest rates go a little bit here and there, but the interest rates in the United States were at 2-something%, not because of Donald Trump or anything he did. It was because of COVID, period. End of story. It's not that difficult. So, but anyway, moving on, last couple clips here from this ridiculous thing. We all know one thing Donald Trump is huge on, and it is crowd sizes. He is obsessed with crowd sizes. He's obsessed with ratings. He's obsessed with everything that gets him attention. That's the only thing he's obsessed with. If you're voting for him, he does not give a fuck about your pocketbook. He cares about the attention that he gets. This is somebody, and of course, this is really going to irritate him, is asking him that if you look at the difference between Kamala Harris's crowd sizes now and Donald Trump's, there seems to be a little bit of a shift here. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are in the same arenas, but when you look at the arena of Kamala Harris's, it's packed. Everybody's having a great time. They're singing, they're dancing, they're waving, they're doing all kinds of stuff. In the Trump rallies, everything is kind of like, uh-oh, are we doing the boats and shark thing again? Is that what's going on? And then if you pan around during the time that he's talking, there are plenty of empty seats. In fact, in the last one in Georgia, he was so mad that he saw empty seats that he blamed it on the school administration, saying that the school administration, because they were liberal, were blocking people from coming in, which is outrageously ridiculous, because if that were actually true, you would hear a news story of all the people that were waiting at the door trying to get in, saying, look, I've got my ticket and they are not letting me in. But of course, we all know that this just is not true. And just that alone should discredit him from somebody you should trust. But there's a million other things that you can add on top of that. But you know what? People are just saying, I don't care. This guy does it for me. He does something to me that gets me going. So I've got to defend every word that he says, even though I look like a fucking moron. I'm going to do it anyway. But anyway, this is him being asked about his crowd sizes and the enthusiasm in his rallies versus Kamala Harris's.
Say it.
Another, had a hard time hearing again.
Oh, give me a break.
He hates
Listen,
this.
I had 107,000 people in New
Jersey.
You didn't
Not true.
report it.
They didn't report it because it wasn't true.
So glad you asked. What did she have yesterday? 2,000 people? If I ever had
That wasn't true either. It was more than 2,000.
2,000 people, you'd say my campaign is finished. It's so dishonest, the press. And here's a great example. I had in Michigan recently 25,000 people, and 25,000 people we just couldn't get them in. We had in Harrisburg 25,000 people, and 20,000 people couldn't get in.
This is not, I mean, this is so fucking ridiculous, and it's absolutely not true. This is the same thing he did when he was in trial in New York. He was saying that there were thousands of people who were trying to get to the courthouse, but the police and everybody were blocking them off and not letting them anywhere near the courthouse. Of course, there'd be cameras out there panning all the way around and showing that literally nobody was out there for him.
We had so many. Nobody ever mentions that. When she gets 1,500 people, and I saw it yesterday on ABC, where they said, oh, the crowd was so big. I have 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the crowd size, and no, they never say the crowd was big. That's why I'm always saying turn around the cameras.
30,000 times or 30 times the crowd size. Let's say there was 2,000 people at Kamala Harris's event. That means 10, 20, 30, 20, 40, and 60,000 people were at his events as compared to Kamala Harris's.
I'm so glad you asked that. I think it's so terrible when you say, well, she has 1,500 people, 1,000 people, and they talk about, oh, the enthusiasm. Let me tell you, we have the enthusiasm. The Republican Party, and me as a candidate, but the Republican Party has the enthusiasm because people want to see crime stopped. They want to see a country that's respected. Think of it.
Okay, there's the crime stop, which, by the way, crime is down significantly, and it's way lower than when Donald Trump was president. But again, the MAGA people, I don't give a fuck about that. Then you say that, and then you share the source, and you got to be careful with the source because then they go, oh my God, MSNBC, ha, 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 fake news. And you're just like, man, why am I even doing this shit anymore? And guess what? I'm not doing that shit anymore. In fact, I have made it a rule now that I really am not going to get into this much anymore. Although I'll probably break that rule because I sometimes just can't help myself. But I'm sort of done just arguing facts versus non-facts. I don't mind pointing out that the ridiculousness of some of the things that's being said, and I will probably continue to do that. But doing this thing where people ask me, name something Biden did or name something Harris did. I mean, what's the fucking point at this point? Because I could sit there and I've done this a million times. I've done it on the show. I've done it on social media where I can list 1,000 different things that Joe Biden has accomplished. And they just do the LOL or they do the fake news or they do that, it doesn't matter. These are all, or they'll ask me the playbook questions like, why hasn't Kamala Harris done a press conference yet? And I'm not going to answer any of your playbook questions anymore because the playbook questions are basically designed for you to just ignore or laugh at. It doesn't matter. You're not going to go, holy shit, that was a pretty good answer. You're just going to go LOL or you're going to do whatever. So none of that matters. But anyway, this was probably the doozy of them all when they asked about crowd size. Here he is again, and he compares it to a historical figure that I think you might find pretty interesting.
Picture of the crowd, the biggest crowd I've ever spoken. I've spoken to the biggest crowds. Nobody's spoken to crowds bigger than me.
There it is. Nobody bigger than me. I'm the greatest.
If you look at Martin Luther King, when he did his speech, his great speech, and you look at ours, same real estate.
Great speech. Guaranteed couldn't name one thing about that.
Same
speech.
Everything. Same number of people. If not, we had more. And they said he had 1 million people, but I had 25,000 people. But when you look at the exact same picture, and everything's the same because it was the fountains, the whole thing, all the way back to from Lincoln to Washington. And you look at it, and you look at the picture of his crowd, my crowd. We actually had more people.
Wow.
They said I had 25,000, and he had 1 million people. And I'm okay with it because I liked Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah, he ends it by trying to act like he's not racist. So he's got to say, I like Dr. Martin Luther King. But he claims that the crowd that he had, and I'm assuming he's talking about his inauguration, that the crowd was bigger than the crowd that Martin Luther King had. See, this is why Donald Trump thinks that he is unstoppable. He's been taught his whole life, and he's been surrounded by yes men his entire life, designed to make him think that he's the greatest thing that's ever lived. And he has continued to surround himself with these yes men. He did it in business. He's done it now in politics. And, this is where it gets really scary, because if he does win, these yes men are going to be the ones that are actually in charge. These yes men are going to let him think that he's the greatest, and that all these ideas of like Project 2025 and everything like that are his ideas. And he's really not going to give a fuck, because he doesn't care about policy. He doesn't care about the people who vote for him. He doesn't care about the people who don't vote for him. He doesn't care about his own family, to be honest with you. The only thing he cares about is himself. He cares about the attention that he gets. And every day that he's in office, he's basically going to be playing golf. He won't be on the phone with world leaders. Every once in a while, if something big happens, he's going to do some weird shit and pretend like he's on the phone, or pretend like he made some phone call. But he's going to be playing golf most of the time, while people like the Kevin Roberts of the world of Project 2025 and Stephen Millers and Steve Bannon, when he gets out of prison, these and Michael Flynn, these are the people, the pardoned people who should be in jail, but he pardoned them because they were criminals. These are the people who are going to be running the government. And this is why I think it's really important that we don't forget about Project 2025, that we continue to push that. And I notice in these rallies that Kamala and Tim Walz are still pressing this. And it is important that we continue to press this and let people know how dangerous this really is. Angel, thank you for joining me. Federalist Society will be running everything. That's exactly correct. I mean, that's they've been the hot, or the sort of they've been running the Republican Party for a long time, but they were never as radical, and they've become more and more radical as time has come along. And what they have come up with now is so insanely crazy that it has to be stopped. There's no way we can allow this to be implemented into our laws and into our government, because then this country is not going to be the same country that we all know and love. Whether you like Kamala Harris or you don't, like the Never Trumpers and the Republicans for Harris, they understand they love this country more than they love this dude. And thankfully, we have these people who are stepping up. I hope that there are more prominent Republicans who step up and say, not only are they not voting for Donald Trump, but they are voting for Kamala Harris, and they're doing it because they care. They care about our country. They care about the future of this country. And these are smart people. They understand the difference of Donald Trump winning versus a real Republican winning. They understand, what it's going to mean for this country. But last few things here, Kamala Harris was talking to the UAW. So now you want to contrast Donald Trump's press conference today. This is Kamala Harris talking to the UAW, the United Auto Workers, today. And listen just to the tone between what Donald Trump says and what Kamala Harris says.
We are a work in progress. We haven't yet quite reached all of those ideals, but we will die trying, because we love our country and we believe in who we are. And that's what our campaign is about. We love our country. We believe in our country. We believe in each other. We believe in the collective. We're not falling for these folks who are trying to divide us, trying to separate us, trying to pull us apart. That's not where the strength lies. And there is that.
I didn't hear what they said.
And so I say to all the members of UAW, and Sean Fain is the first who I talked to about this, I am so deeply honored as a lifelong supporter of union labor for Tim and I to have the endorsement of UAW.
I've seen one clip of Donald Trump showing gratitude towards anybody or anything. I mean, she is inspiring. She just, this is the difference, is that you had people who were going to be on the sideline, right? And they were gonna say, you know what, I don't know if I could take these two old guys anymore. I can't vote for Trump because he's crazy. I can't vote for Biden because he's old. And I still say that if you actually followed politics and you really knew what was going on, Biden was a phenomenal president. I'll say that every show until the election, because I love that dude and I think he was a great president, and I will defend him to anybody, except for a MAGA person, because it just, there's really no sense. I mean, there's nothing you could say that's going to convince them anyway. But she's inspiring, and she has the momentum, she has the energy, she has the enthusiasm, not Donald Trump. She has got everything, all the tools that she needs to be president. And I really can't wait as time goes on and we get to know her more. We get to know Tim Walz more. The convention is going to be insane. It's going to be, everything from this point until the election is going to be very difficult for Donald Trump and MAGA to stop, unless something unbelievable happens, which at this point, we know unbelievable things can happen right now, right? I mean, I want everybody listening right now just to list everything that you can list in your head that has happened politically in just this year, and see how many you can come up with. I mean, unbelievable things. You had an ex-president who's been indicted. You had an ex-president that has been found guilty. You've had an ex-president that was found guilty of frauding a state. You had an ex-president that was shot at, by the way, not shot at, and had an assassination attempt on his life. You had a president of the United States step back and say, I'm not running anymore. And now Kamala Harris, when it looked like the Democratic Party was somewhat dead, I still don't think they were, but somewhat dead, they revived everything in the shortest amount of time and raised record amounts of money in days, not weeks, not months, days. They've put together all different kinds of coalitions. And again, I can't even think of all the things that have happened. So many different things have happened over these, last, what month are we in? August, 8 months? And you know what? It's getting exhausting, but hopefully we could put an end to this, because if Donald Trump does not win in November, this MAGA thing could be over and done for good. I mean, we could see the death of MAGA. Now, as I told Lana on the last show when we discussed it, will MAGA always be gone forever? No, because even though it's dead, what happens sometimes after death? If you believe in this, I personally don't, but there are MAGA ghosts. And MAGA ghosts will be, they'll still be around, and we'll have to keep battling as long as we keep going. But if we can defeat Donald Trump in November, which I truly do believe we are, and in fact, I don't, even if I see polling that shows Donald Trump, in fact, I saw, what was it? Rasmussen poll that came out today that showed Donald Trump up 5, but Rasmussen poll is they're a Donald Trump poll. They're a MAGA poll. So I think what they need to do is reignite and re-energize the MAGA base as much as they can. And because the train is going, and literally every poll that is coming out now is showing Kamala Harris winning every one. So let's catch up on some comments here. This is Angel North, who Angel's been a fan for a while. She used to listen to my old podcast, and I appreciate her. She's up there in the great state of Alaska. They are where his money comes from, too. We already have 3 Supreme Court justices from the Federalists. That is correct. And, again, that's the other important thing, that if we win this election, that hopefully, we can get some Supreme Court justice reform. We can get some reform on the Supreme Court so they can't run around rampant and receive millions of dollars in gifts from people who are basically telling them and, sort of nudging them on which way to vote, because that is absolutely insane. The fact that the Supreme Court has absolutely no filter and there's nothing that precludes them from being punished for anything that they do is absolutely insane. QW34, thank you for joining us, my friend. What is up, y'all? RICO charges for trying to commit fraud in the election. Federal charges for stealing and hiding classified documents. By the way, this is the thing I was talking about, is if you can name things that have happened this year, the most hated VP candidate in history, that is correct. And remember how long it took to get the Tea Party gone. Yeah, I mean, Lana and I talked about this last time, is how the MAGA movement really started. And, it really started back with Ronald Reagan. It happened in the 80s. Newt Gingrich and all these people. Newt Gingrich, I read this whole book about Newt Gingrich. It was called Burning Down the House. And what he would do back in the days when C-SPAN and cable would first be around, he was one of these guys to discover how to do sort of fake news. And C-SPAN at the time would have one camera and it would only show the podium inside the chambers of the House or in the Senate. And so he knew that they would not show the cameras behind the podium. So what he would do is that he would get up on the podium during the live broadcast of C-SPAN, knowing that nobody was in the chamber. And he would start saying things and saying, Democrats, if you really truly disagree with me, then somebody come up here and say something. Somebody come up here and dispute me. And obviously nobody was going to dispute him because nobody was in the chamber. So it made it look like, that they were scared or they were believing what he was saying. And that's kind of how this whole fake news thing started. Now, I don't know how many people were literally watching C-SPAN at that time. So, but again, that's just started the whole thing. And then Fox News comes around, which further started this MAGA movement. Then the Tea Party, as Angel brings up, comes around. Then Sarah Palin comes around. And then Sarah Palin was sort of a catalyst. She really started sparking the MAGA movement, because then you saw the crazies come out. Well, really, maybe the Tea Party people were the crazy ones, but the super crazy ones, the ones who were not really involved in politics, were the ones that were coming out. And you had the ones that were getting up on stage at the John McCain rally saying they won't vote for Obama because he's Muslim. And John McCain was like, no, we don't do that bullshit here. This is crazy shit. But, the door had been open at that point. And then Donald Trump comes on the scene talking about Barack Obama and his birth certificate. And he was chastised and made fun of at the what do you call that? The dinner that they have every year, the media dinner, where they have the big, basically it's a big roast of the media and journalists and stuff like that. And Donald Trump was there, and the whole night, Seth Meyers was making fun of him. Barack Obama was making fun of him. And you could see, if you haven't seen the video, go back and watch it, because first of all, it's hilarious. And you could see Donald Trump seething. He was so pissed during that whole thing, that they say that's what really sparked him to run for president. Now, he's been talking for years, even back in the 80s, of running for president. Then he made, another few inquiries in the 90s. But then, I think he saw his opportunity in, after Obama had left, against Hillary Clinton, who came in as a polarizing sort of candidate. But, you could say whatever you want. Everybody keeps bringing up this thing is that Russia, and it was a big hoax. No, it clearly was not. Russia was 100% involved in our election, and there were MAGA people and Donald Trump associates involved in that whole scheme. So I don't know why we keep allowing this narrative that this was a big hoax and a big scheme, because it wasn't. There were plenty of people that were arrested. Americans, people that were associated with Donald Trump, were arrested based on that entire investigation. So when you have Russia doing everything they can to invade America through social media, misinformation and disinformation to help Donald Trump, that's why he ran. He knew he was getting that help. I know he knows. I know he knew that was going on. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You cannot convince me he didn't know that Russia was involved in this whole thing. No chance. But anyway, got off on a tangent there. I think I have one more clip. We were talking about Project 2025, and Kevin Roberts, who is now the he's the leader of the Federalist Society or Foundation or whatever they call it. And that's after the original leader had stepped down. And so he's taken over, and basically they have been doing everything they can. Donald Trump has been doing everything he can to separate himself from Project 2025. And it's obviously because it's not very popular, and a lot of people are starting to take notice of this thing. So people are like, wow, this is really crazy. And Donald Trump is trying to pretend like he doesn't understand anything about it, even though he says, I know what's in it. It's crazy, but I don't know what's in it. He's all over the place about it. But this is Kevin Roberts. He was being interviewed on NBC, and they were asking about his involvement and Donald Trump's involvement in Project 2025. And this is what he had to say about it. Oh, sorry. No, sorry. This is where I need a producer. Hang on, guys. Stay with me. Don't go anywhere. Here we go. All right.
Relationship between the nominee and Project 2025.
Well, on one level, it's good that President Trump and his campaign distance their campaign from anything else, right? I mean, they're trying to win an election. Also, legally, it's important for people to know that Project 2025 is independent of any candidate. We've put this together for any candidate to lean on. But secondly, to the heart of your question, our relationship with Mr. Trump and his advisors remains very good.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Project 2025, it literally says in it, it is designed for whoever the presidential candidate is, and we are going to implement these things on day one of the presidency. So Donald Trump is the nominee. So using this language to try to sucker people again that, this is for anybody. This isn't just for Donald Trump. It specifically says in Project 2025, because I read about 100 pages of it. And in the very beginning, you could see that, and it's a 900-page document, by the way. You could see that this is designed for whoever is going to be taking office. They all know it's Donald Trump. And not to mention, you could look at all the authors of Project 2025, and there's quite a few, a lot of associates of Donald Trump, prior associates and present associates that are involved in Project 2025. So again, they're going to try to take this tactic of doing the I don't really know, this is but I don't think it's working. And luckily, Project 2025 has been said over and over enough that enough voters are looking at this like, wow, this is pretty dangerous. And if there's anybody out there who doesn't believe that they absolutely plan on implementing this on day one, you are out of your mind. They are literally going to fire lifelong people who have been in the government, who do the right thing, who go by the letter of the law and not by what the president says. Like the Federal Reserve, they're going to fire the head of the Federal Reserve and put in their own yes man so they can control everything on the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is supposed to work independent of the president. They're going to fire the leader of the Department of Justice and put in their yes man. And the Department of Justice, same thing, supposed to work independent of the president of the United States. And they're going to do the guise as if they are, but they're going to do whatever Donald Trump, or not Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's not going to tell them shit. They're going to do whatever they tell Donald Trump to make him think that he's telling them. But it's really going to be the Kevin Roberts of the world. And like I said, the Stephen Millers and Steve Bannons and these crackpot nutbags who are going to absolutely destroy this country. So this is a theme that needs to continue to go on Project 2025 and just how scary it is. So, but I'm going to wrap up the show tonight. Lana and I will be back on Tuesday. Let's finish off with the rest of the comments here. Remember how long it took to get I saw that Putin is so poor that they have to go into North Korea for guns, and over 900 pages in the Project 2025, as I said. Thank you, Angel. Yeah, we talk about the foreign policy, and Joe Biden is phenomenal at foreign policy. And I've heard people say who know about foreign policy more than I do, said that his handling of Ukraine and Russia is one of the best foreign policy handlings of anything in the history of the United States, how well he has handled this, because Russia now is depleted significantly. They're a shell of themselves. And it is because of the support that we have shown for the Ukraine against Russia. And you know what? There are a lot of Republicans, even MAGA Republicans, who absolutely agree with what Joe Biden is doing. They may not say it out loud, and they may not give him the credit, but they agree. They agree that Ukraine, but you have the Marjorie Taylor Greens and all these assholes who want to side with Vladimir Putin and Russia, Tucker Carlson, who's out there and making his viewers think that maybe Russia is more of somebody that's on our side than the Ukraine is. In fact, now you've got Americans, literal Americans, who will defend Russia over other American citizens because they vote for Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Barack Obama, which is absolutely fucking insane. Just absolutely insane. I don't like MAGA. I don't like these people. I think they're fucking crazy, but I'm not defending Russia over them. That's fucking nuts. I mean, this is where we are. This is just insanity. And how anybody can look at this and go, this makes complete sense. I mean, people wearing t-shirts saying, I'd rather be Russian than a Democrat. What is this? What are we doing here? And, one day, I think we're all going to, no, not I think, I know one day this country is going to look back, and this is going to be looked back as one of the worst times in American history. And it's not because of Joe Biden. It's not because of Kamala Harris. And it's not because of Barack Obama. It is because of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And it's going to be one of the biggest embarrassments in this country's history. It already is. But when the dust is settled, two things. This is going to be looked at as one of the worst things in American history. And the other thing is, again, come at me if you want to, Joe Biden will go down as one of the greatest presidents we've ever had, period. End of story. And I've got a million things that I can list as to why, if he wasn't the age that he was, if he was 15, 20 years younger, guy wins in a landslide in this upcoming election. It wouldn't even be close. It would be one of the biggest blowouts in America. Maybe it wouldn't. And I think, you know what? I will take that back. It wouldn't be one of the biggest blowouts in American history because there has been a certain sector of the country that has been programmed that no matter how well a Democratic president does, that they are going to be seen not just as terrible, but they're going to be seen as the enemy. That's just, a fact. So, but I thank everybody finding over 50,000 IT specialists that keep, the records. Yeah, Angel, there's, like I said, it would be scary stuff, but gosh, guys, I really appreciate, I see 81 people watching. I don't know if that's really true, but I that would be great. If you are watching, please do me a favor, subscribe, share this if you don't mind. Lana will be back with me. If this is your first time watching the show, I don't normally do this by myself. I do them, I think on Thursday nights, I'll be doing my own show on Thursday nights, but she is a regular on Tuesday nights with me live at 8:00 Eastern time. She is phenomenal. She does such a great job, and her opinions and the insight that she has, on so many different things is really great. So I hope you're able to join us. But please, if you can, like, subscribe, share the show anywhere you can. I want to thank Paul McGuire for joining us. He was disagreeing with us. Baby Juggernaut, of course. Angel, QW34. We always appreciate you joining. And everybody else that watched, and even if you weren't part of the comments, I do appreciate you watching as well. Hopefully you can join us on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Normally Lana does her show separately too on Thursday nights. I was going to do a quick show, but she's not doing her show tonight, so I let mine go a little bit longer than normal. I was going to, lead into her show a little bit, but she's not doing her show tonight. But you could check her show out too, The Quest Show. Even if it's not live, you can go back and watch some of her videos. And then you can also, like I said, join us on Tuesday night, at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see everybody again Tuesday.